for people to just join in. I think there is always the last minute rush. And we'll start in like 6:05. We'll definitely start. As suspected, there are entrants coming in at every second. And as I promised, 6:05 we start, and we start here. First of all, thank you. Good evening, everyone, for joining in and spending your precious Saturday evening with us. Just the fact that you joined, know that the matter, the area that we're discussing and the campaign that NHRD has been running via Mind Matters is an area of passion for all of you. Thank you for being there, being an ally, being an ambassador, and spreading the word around. Before we kind of dwell into what the evolution of Mind Matters was, I would like to take a minute to talk about a very legendary psychologist who passed away on 20th October, Mihaly, and I don't want to talk about Professor Mihaly, a very complicated Hungarian surname. He introduced the concept of flow. I don't know how many of you would have gotten introduced to the topic, but I think the concept of flow is really talking about, actually reiterates the same value of societal and individual well-being. And I love his quote where he says, to live means to experience through doing, feeling, thinking. Over the years, the content of experience, again, I'm repeating, over the years, over all our years, the content of experience will determine the quality of life, because all of us know a typical day is full of anxiety and boredom. As life unfolds, it is how we choose what we do, how we approach it, that will determine whether the sum of our days adds up to a formless blur or to something resembling a work of art. Flow experiences, getting into work or getting into areas that resemble a work of art, is when you get into flow, and flow experiences provides flashes of intense living against this dull background of boredom and anxiety. And the fact of the matter remains that many of us increasingly are out of flow. It is in that backdrop that NHRD took on this passion project last year, Mind Matters. It's had 3 editions, and what I'm heartened with is the response that it generated. The idea was to create allies. The idea was to serve mental well-being and make it a priority. Could I request people who've joined in to put yourself on mute? Thank you. Actually, if you look at the journey started last October, the idea was to surface it, as I said. Lots of webinars were there. We had over 40 speakers, 3,400 odd attendees, many Twitter impressions. And just the fact that the reach in social media, should have fueled it further. And we knew, I guess, the fact that something under the iceberg was brought about to the fore ensured that interest remained with us actively. It again took the 2nd edition where the team behind Mind Matters created a toolkit which can be used in any organization. So if you are part of organizations, and if please ensure that your CHRO is reached out or you download the toolkit to make it your priority. So this toolkit was downloaded, hold your breath, 1.7 million times. It just talks about the kind of interest that it generated. Also in version 2.0, their best practices survey was released. Again, a lot of webinars and a lot of education awareness sessions were conducted. We received 1,600 plus attendees. This is a 3rd edition in the same year and coincided with the Mental Health Day. Again, what we've done is created lots of webinars, lots of games, lots of quizzes, and it's ensured that every edition is bringing something special. And this time around, it was about accept and reset. And here is where, if you look at this year, we've done, we started actually with making it light, saying that, how can concept of or the idea of mental well-being, which is so heavy when we talk about mental health, be taken in a not light manner, but activating the concept and introducing the concept in a light manner was what we kind of tried to generate. That was how we introduced it. We had many quizzes at the NHRDN handle. All of you, if you're not in the NHRDN handle, you're missing it. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter. And I'm sorry I'm doing a plug, because how else would you know? And more importantly, you all should become members of NHRDN. There was also a couple of sessions that we did where we actually did not only an education awareness session, but how do you decode anxiety? Some tips, some practical tips to reframe and embrace embrace and reframe anxieties. And there was a debate, and there's a debate constantly that happens around us, whether anxiety is good or bad. In a way, we said that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay that if people around us are not okay, there's help. And how do we kind of create that help and accept and open ourselves to vulnerabilities? We also had a lovely session by speakers here talking about the queer experience, accepting and resetting that. One is from a parenting experience, and the other person who himself is gay. What are the anxieties that they faced? Relationships in the last year have also had a topsy-turvy aspect. A lot of relationships have had challenges, and the pandemic effects in the relationships were covered, in fact, yesterday with a roundtable of experts. And today, we are culminating the entire campaign with a fantastic fireside chat, and he's one of the most inspiring leaders for, I've ever come across, who is able to talk about mental well-being very, very candidly. Hold on, but this is not it. We've not ended the thing with just a couple of sessions. We're also having, and here is where I think you should, that's why I've told you, follow NHRD and LinkedIn, Twitter, maybe just also get hold of the previous recordings on YouTube. Very, very critical, because it's the ambassador workshop that's happening, and I'll talk to you about it. And on the chat box also, as you can see, Nikita is just putting those links. So just add those links to your calendar. Very critical. So the ambassador workshop will be done in 2 parts, and it's not just open registration. It is, can we just get back, please? The ambassador workshop is by a CXO nomination. And the idea is to be allies and be the wellness champion in your organization, to partner, not only us, but I think the cause, and make well-being a priority in your organization. So there are 2 sessions there. And the session details are provided here. But more importantly, I think one of the things I take great heart in is the fact that all of these resources are free. And you will argue sometimes when you get resources for free, we don't value it. Because we say, if I've not paid for it, maybe it's not as useful. One thing I can tell you is, and I joined this team fairly late, and I'm inspired every day by the commitment and the cause and the passion that the team members have driven. But I think for me, whenever I've spoken to any of my friends in the CHRO community about this, what they've said is we've never come across such an exhaustive, comprehensive toolkit anywhere. And personally, even for me, even though we talk about mental well-being and we may be doing 1, 2, 3 things, but not comprehensively, when I look at the toolkit, it's such a fantastic, compendium of resources available to you across, it has newsletters, it has tips to handle how do you look at grief, loss, anxiety. It'll have your mental wealth policy. It will also have, including nitty-gritties like emails. What should you draft out? How do you go out there and create more allies? It is as comprehensive as it gets. So that's also something that we will be launching soon. But yeah, Imon, I love the fact that you are asking for a link to download the toolkit. Just wait, hold on, get your CXO to nominate you, and then we will definitely give access to the toolkit. The 1.7 million downloads is essentially our our contribution to the cause and I think 70% were international as well. So that's something that I think in India, the reason we are doing these webinars, the reason even, sorry, Moon, you are the CXO, so we will get back to you in terms of the link, sending the link. But the fact is, on Saturday evening, Rajiv is coming and having a chat with us because it is really a passion area for all of us. We are spending enormous amount of time, and the campaign doesn't end here. We will be reaching out to you many, many times over, and make this a priority, because it is really, this is a silent pandemic that no one's talking about. Before I kind of end and Rajiv is here, what I would like to also talk about is the partners, and maybe just give you session glimpses, and our speakers, fantastic speakers who are there. And obviously Rajiv, we are thanking him in advance because I personally know him, and he's really, really not only a lovely person to talk to, but I think very open. And I think he leads from the front, and all the concept of the leader who's open, vulnerable, actually he exemplifies it in many times over. So we had many speakers, many different kinds of speakers, and diversity itself heartened me. And the content that I talked about, which is rich, go to YouTube and access it, please. If you're interested in this topic, please access as much as you can. The session glimpses are there for you to see, and obviously a few testimonials. I'm doing a big time plug just to ensure that we all reach out and just ensure that this mental well-being remains a priority with us. It doesn't end just attending one session and say, oh, I have had a good time. But that good time is there is some kind of an action. There's a call to action to the good time that you've had through awareness and other things that and please evangelize it within your community as well. There's a manifesto, and this time around we have a manifesto, and essentially a pledge to say that I, as an organization, or we as community of people, are committed to making mental well-being a priority for us. And very simple. It doesn't impinge on any other mental well-being policy that you may have. It's just a commitment to the cause in corporate India. And I think we need as many partners. And Imon, I would request if you can ensure that you're also one of the signatories here. So this is something that Sunu is leading, and she will send out, and I think many of you would have received Nathan's mails as well, but we will again drum up support for this. And hundreds of people have come out with it. The other thing that we are also looking at is being, accepted to reset is our tagline. We are looking at people to share your story, be vulnerable, and tag NHRDN Mind Matters. I think the team believes that if you are as open as possible, that there are rewards and prizes. I don't think the rewards and prizes will incentivize you, but we want to make everyone feel good. The core team is here. Nathan, who's the president, he is the one who is responsible for ensuring this core team stays honest. He has a day job. He also does HR with Deloitte, but I think his passion project is NHRDN, and more importantly, the kind of time that he spent with us has been enormous. Thank you, Nathan. Dhananjay from the NHRDN team, but I would like to single out a couple of people specifically, Devika, Geeta, Nikita, who are real heroes here, real heroes of Mind Matters, and they are the ones who inspire us every day. And we have Avinash, Darpan, all of them, Sunu, Aman, Pooja, are people who joined the Karma very late, which is in the 3rd edition. We promise to be committed with you, Devika, and continue taking the journey along. Before I get on to the fireside chat, because this is the culmination of a campaign, just want to also ensure that we also thank our partners, Anuradha, who's led from the front. Their Fulki is a design team who've been there. Hi, Anuradha. You've been great support. You don't know how. And your team has been fantastic. Shivani, Sarika, Ashish, Deepa, all of them. Fantastic. I can't say more. And as I said, we've also had other like-minded people along the way. Priyanka from Thought Company and Ambassador Workshop Partner. We have MHFA, Erinda Shah. A big shout out to all the partners. And again, as I said, please understand all these resources are available free. We are all working pro bono in that sense. So big shout out to all the partners who are in that sense giving IPR freely so that the cause becomes bigger and reaches as many people as possible. So before I get Rajiv, hi Rajiv, we will get you in a minute. Before I do that, I'll request Nathan, President NHRD, just to say a few words to kind of set the context for our fireside chat.
Thank you so much for leading. You talked about this Israeli scientist, Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, the whole notion of what is flow, so much. And I don't know whether you've all noticed, the logo is a very interesting logo, Mind Matters logo. There is a heart in it. The mind has a heart, the heart has a mind. I think much of what we are trying to do is just for us to understand the connect between what we think, feel, and do on a very consistent basis. And sometimes we also get hijacked. Understanding the nature of what really happens to us and just staying on earth and accepting. Because when we start to accept, there's a lot of things that happen to us. Personally, I feel that this particular campaign is just an awesome campaign. And this is not a 1 day, 2 day, 2 months. It's almost like it's been going on for some time. It'll go on forever. We are but office bearers. Men may come and men may go, but we go on forever. So that's one. You talked about singling out a couple of people, 3 people. Yes, you're talking about Devika, you're talking about Nikita, you're talking about Geeta. For them, this is actually the flow, because for them, I know the kind of work that they are putting in, the entire team is putting in, the Fulki team is putting in. And Raj, I want to single you out as well, because there is a lot that goes on. So on behalf of all of us, thank you. And this is not a thank you speech, but before we come to you, Rahul, thank you so much for being with us on this call. It's extremely important for us. All the people who have joined us today, a big thank you. This is an affirmation that this is the movement that will really start to gather the kind of steam it really requires. The last 2 years have really taught us that. With that, let me turn this back to you, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you again. As I said, okay, without further ado, let me get the fireside chat kickstarted. The person I'm calling on had the chance to dialogue with him on Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl happens to be one of my favorite authors, The Man's Search for Meaning, and where he says in the face of tragedy, we find meaning, but it's not necessary that you need to have tragic experiences in your life to find meaning. But here was Rajiv, who was very open and transparent in terms of his experiences. And he has a big day job. He's the chairman and MD of Bajaj Capital, and I know all of you know him. He has experience, obviously, in investment banking, advisory, all of that. What inspires me is the fact that he's been a TEDx speaker, mentor, life coach, but he's, in a sense, found his ikigai. And he conducts workshops for people to find their life purpose, live their ikigai. And when I just reached out to him, and I think he was in midst of board meeting, I said, you must do it. And he said, okay, I'll make the calendar available. And here it is on a Saturday, spending the time with us. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you for doing it. Our pleasure and our honor that you're here. And hopefully we'll have as candid a conversation that we had the last time around.
Thank you, Raj. You are my connect. You are an outstanding human being yourself, and it takes one to know one. And I've been listening to all of you talking to each other. So you are my connect into this beautiful community of people. The kind of volunteer work you're doing. It's just so outstanding. It is so amazing. I'm so inspired by all of you. It takes so much to take, particularly for, I'm an entrepreneur. I can, still afford to take some liberties, but for a professional leader, and particularly all of you at the top level to take time and do this is outstanding. So my salute to all of you.
Thank you, Rajiv. But I think it just needs all of us to kind of come together. Let me just switch gears and get into some conversation.
Hmm.
I talked about the concept of flow and, the fact that many, many people are out of flow. And all of us know that the sense of well-being, in a sense, has been in decline.
Hmm.
It has doubled, life satisfaction has halved. And almost all bodies are recognizing that you can't really monitor well-being by relying on GDP alone. In fact, OECD said that, which has been publishing for a decade, the concept of index of well-being, said that people's mental health has worsened to an unprecedented extent, especially during the pandemic. You can attribute financial insecurity, unemployment, fear, maybe even reduction of activities like simple things like exercising, going to your gym. That kept your mental health buoyant and in flow. So in that backdrop, what I wanted to understand is, you're actually one of the few leaders, and when we were also picking our brains, we couldn't find many. And all of us came to one name, and that's you, one of the very few business leaders who've talked about this space. Maybe let's get something personal from you. How do you get inspired to be in space? And what do you do to manage your mental well-being?
Fantastic, Raj. That's we are diving straight in. Raj, I have been listening to all of you, and in the spirit of honesty of your question, I'll give a very honest answer. I've been through my share of mental battles, and we are talking forum rules or Chatham House rules. So whatever we discuss here is only for our consumption of this group that I know. I went into my midlife crisis. I'm 51 now. So I had a pretty long, almost a decade-long midlife crisis from 35 to 45, where I started asking myself questions. My silver spoon became my challenge, because I asked myself that if I wasn't born into, my father KK's house, and if I didn't have the liberty of walking into his office on 142 degrees Delhi summer afternoon in Connaught Place and say, "Boss, can I have a job?" And he said, "Yes, you can have a job." So, I didn't even have to make a CV. So what was a silver spoon became my bane, and it kept haunting me. It kept coming back to me. So, all of us have different kinds of challenges. Professional managers have different challenges. But even from, I bring you an entrepreneurial perspective. So I kept asking myself this question. So I had superficial answers that, I love doing short projects. I love shifting from one thing to the other. I could have been a good head of an ad agency had I started organically, as a professional. But, the strive was something deeper. I was looking for something deeper. Who am I? If I remove my surname, Bajaj, Rajiv, if my name were Rajiv Singh, Rajiv Kumar, who am I? And what am I worth? Why am I here? Is there any special quality I have which I can put to work? What am I meant to? And more importantly, what is my relationship with society? What am I meant to contribute to society? Because, I can now, make these smart statements and say that, we are all functions of how we connect to the society, and we are all social animals, and unless we add back value to society, which has given us everything, we always feel empty. So, now as an Ikigai coach, having reached here, I can say all these things, but I went through all these struggles. So what is the purpose of my life, remained a question. So I went into discovering myself, knowing myself better. What is my ask from my life? And that quest took me to Japan, and I understood Japanese wellness. I got introduced to this concept of Ikigai, and I started peeling the layers of my own Ikigai. I've been working for it for over a decade. I went on ground, met people in Okinawa, the village of longevity, and that's where Okinawa island of Japan, that's where the concept of Ikigai started. Many of us would have read this beautiful blue book by the Spanish authors Hector Garcia and Francesca Miralles. I'd say it was deep pain, which was the starting point, and I had my own share of mental health issues. That's where I started, and also one key trigger, Raj, was that when we decided to professionalize the running of our company and we handed over to professional managers, so it emptied up a lot of time and space, and that's when I started thinking of doing something with Ikigai. So that's been, we'll talk more on that. But as a starter, I'd say that it was my own personal quest for search for myself and my own share of mental health issues, which got me started onto this journey. And today, if I can, by the end of this talk, if I can leave anything with all of you, is that there are several ways of addressing mental health issues, as I was listening to all of you. But my own little 2 bits would be to, search for your life purpose. And I'd like to continue to build on this as we go along, Raj. But I hope I answered your initial part of question.
So, one of the questions that people have is, after you find the life purpose, the challenge is to keep on discovering and rediscovering it, and maybe dwell on that a little bit more. Again, in all honesty and openness, my interest in this area came about as a parent. I am very buoyant as a person. For me, maybe I would say adaptability, resilience, etc. is something that I treasure. But when I saw my daughter, and I think it's pandemic also hasn't been easy. So my daughter's having her own share of wellbeing. And I see students around. And in fact, there is some alarming statistics that 70% of maybe the youth of India would have some issue or the other. You can blame the digital device, you can blame social isolation, loneliness, and many factors. Maybe just taking the cue of the fact that, and I'm just painting the picture that it is all pervasive. Do corporates still feel that mental wellness is a soft issue compared to hardcore business priorities like attrition or something which is more, but even diversity for that matter? This one, why do you feel? Because we don't open up, we don't share.
Yeah.
Even now when you're sharing, and I'm thinking in my mind, oh, you're sharing so openly. Are you okay? We hope you're and for me also, the fact that my daughter's had her own issues, maybe I don't share that openly. Why is it still such? Not, I don't say stigma, but it's a soft issue that the corporates haven't surfaced it.
Yeah. No, that's a great question, Raj. And what I would say is that I wouldn't like to be a doubting Tom here and say that corporates are not conscious. We are in your group particularly, you're talking about top leaders from top companies, and you yourself are an iconic HR leader in the country. All of you are very conscious. You're very aware. But like COVID, the enemy here is invisible, and we do not have tools to find it. So my simple observation would be that companies are, striving to be empathetic. They simply do not have the tools. They don't know how to go about it. And then obviously companies are on a treadmill of performance, and they have to justify quarter on quarter to marketplace. And hence, they think about all these things, but then they go back to work. And so do the employees, and they are, we are as humans are very good at camouflaging our feelings, and we do not. So in fact, I was talking about spirituality earlier. I've had this debate, Raj, with several friends. What is spirituality to you? So, there could be 100 answers connecting with the higher self. But one of the answers I really like is that when you're inside, the real you, the real Raj, the real Rajiv, when the real us, what is inside can be outside. And I think that's where most of the mental health issues, I assume, come from. And I speak from my own experience, my own gestalt, that when you're not able to express yourself in your true form, you're meant to fly. So 2 days ago we were, now things are opening up all over India, fingers crossed. So I happened to be 48 hours ago at an interaction with Lucky Ali. And Lucky was saying this, till my father was alive, I was always under pressure to live up to his, vision of me. And he wanted me to be in Bollywood, and I hated Bollywood. But it's Lucky Ali, the me, and his colleague. I was speaking to his colleague outside, his drummer, and he gave me a name, a French word that Lucky is this. Trudeau. Let me just find it. In fact, I've written it in my notes. I thought I'll study this concept. So it's like a concept of traveling musician, a guy who carries the culture around. So that's what Lucky's spirit is. That's what he wants to express. But he was not able to do that. So Lucky Ali would have been in that dilemma or in that quandary, and that would have muting your spirit is what sends you possibly through, besides other reasons, through mental health issues. And as we said, Raj, because it's invisible, because we are so busy in our corporate lives, and because as humans we are so good at hiding, we are not able to express. But finally, and very importantly, we don't have the tools. And that's where, as we build into this conversation, we will speak about Ikigai. That Ikigai is a tool, possibly. And, when we spoke about this conversation we are going to have today about a month ago, I immediately accepted. And the reason is because I saw a direct linkage between mental health and your Ikigai or your life purpose.
So let's delve well deep, because you talk about Ikigai. Ikigai is a tool. I know you're passionate about mentoring, and you mentor many young entrepreneurs, young people across. There's a dichotomy. One is when people are feeling anxious and have issues, they are unable to express. Perhaps some of them are also in a zone where they're not able to share. And then there needs to be that sharing. So maybe some of them even don't know how to go about seeking help, right?
Yeah.
How in your mentoring conversations you use the tool of, or let's say the lever of, or the platform of Ikigai to facilitate the discussion, even though you may not be a trained counselor?
Yes.
And
yes.
a trained counselor, you're not a psychotherapist, but how in your mentoring conversations do you use that beautifully to kind of surface it?
Yeah. And that's a good point, because I've also run into trouble talking to people about Ikigai, because I sometimes, touching a very sensitive chord and people start crying, and I'm not trained how to handle that. And it's too late in life for me to go down, the path of becoming a therapist. And I feel guilty, at that point. But in my own limited way, yes, I am able to, in my conversations, drill deep into people's minds and spirits. And I start by asking them questions about, a very simple question. What do you love doing? In your personal life, in your professional life. I mean, and it could be, and guess what? I've spoken to over 2,500 people over last 2 years. And guess what? Everyone, what you see of their professional role. So if I were to ask you this question, Raj, you are a leading CXO of a major bank in India, but what do you love the most? Why don't you answer that question for me live? It may be something totally different from what you do or what people may assume for you. So let's do this live.
Okay, so in my case, I love stories. I love the warp and weft of human stories. And if not this, I know that I would have been there is a romanticism of archaeologists or an archaeologist, right? For me, that would have been the case.
Yeah.
What I love about my job is that I deal with people and conversations with them. And maybe my purpose is to kind of expand or ignite their inner self. And I'm saying using the word potential in a big way, but yeah, having conversations with them. For me, the stories and connections I made from people is what is interesting. And I'm not saying I like people and all of that, but that is fascinating.
Yeah. So I got, two sets of answers from you, Raj, and both were very diverse, but very, very interesting. So, and this is for all of you on this call today. Could you have guessed that Raj, loves stories? Would you have got this out of her? Or there's an archaeologist hidden inside of her? Because you see her in a different light. You see her in a different role. And that's what there's somebody else. There are several people hidden inside of us. Have we even bothered to ask ourselves this question? So I can give you a tool for myself, Raj. On my iPhone notepad, because I end up, losing diaries and the scribbled papers. So on my iPhone notepad for last 10 years, ever since I've had iPhone, I've been writing what I love. And whenever when I love something, at that moment, I write it down. And there's, even today, I'm discovering so many new things I love about myself. So the very simple concept is that, Raj, would it hurt you if I were to ask you if you spend maybe half an hour a day just delving into things you love? So maybe, going deeper into the stories you like, or studying something about archaeology. So if I were to just point you in that direction, would it not add to enriching your spirit? Yes or no? It would.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. As you were asking me, and I'm saying you want stories, but I've taken the literal professional part. I connect with people.
Yeah.
But not really nourished my soul in that.
Yeah. So so now I'll come to the second part you said, which you said your professional part, that you love, interacting with people, and you love deep conversations, connections. And that's what, that's the strength which you have leveraged. You would have started as an MT and then grown all the way, your way up to the ladder. So you're that top 1%. And why have you reached there? Because you are doing what you love also. So I tell people in my Ikigai trainings, till you find your purpose, find purpose in what you're doing. So in a way, you have found purpose in what you're doing, which is your job as a industry HR leader. And at the same time, you truly love it, but it may not be your highest love. But there is something which gets you into a state of flow, which you started out with, and what is an example of state of flow is that you're doing that thing, you lose a sense of time and space. And I'll give you my own example that when we handed over the company 4-5 years to go to professionals, I had half a day free. And I as a person really respect my time. So I want to keep growing every minute, and I want to use my time constructively, my working hours. So that working hour, I may be sitting in Starbucks coffee shop, but I want to grow at that time. So I started in a very random manner. I got attracted to the study of human longevity, and initially I used to feel guilty. I had a label on my head, financial services man, and I would keep peeling off that label and say that Rajiv, I would, my inner conversation would be, Rajiv, you are a financial services guy. Why the hell are you wasting time, in this? But then I'm also good at, connecting the dots. So I started finding, convergence between health, wealth, and longevity. So I didn't realize at that time that I was possibly getting dragged towards my corporate ikigai, which has allowed me to repurpose the mission statement of Bajaj Capital today of what we want to be in next 5, 10, 15 years, which is that, which is an industry, we sell people insurances, health insurance. And I thought, which is a sector which is willing to reward you for being healthy? It's health insurance companies and life insurance. So there is a linkage between health, wealth, and longevity. So I saw a straight connection. I was interested in it. It's my true passion, and I would bring my best self to it, and that would be my value add to a company. So for 30 years of my life, I've been running KK's company. My dad, KK Bajaj, he founded the company. So I've been running his company with a certain level of passion because I'm a passionate guy. But when I started discovering my own passion, then I realized that this is a flavor, a repurposing, the organization would take it to a different orbit. So or orbit or direction. I mean, orbit sounds a little pompous, but this is where I am, Raj, and I'm very excited about what I'm doing. It's brought a fresh sense of purpose to my life and what I'm doing at this point.
So fascinating. The part that you talked about, finding purpose in what you do. If you don't find your purpose, many of us spend at work, and perhaps work is also one big part of our identity for people to work. And a lot of them, and there is always this debate, maybe previous generation never had the choice to say, okay, find your passion. Today we have resources, and I'll tell my daughter, Ja Simran ji le apni zindagi. What happened, right? And even there, the fact that they have to find a passion is also creating anxiety. I understand. This part of how do you find purpose in what you do? How do you make every day count? How do you look at simple joys? Because that also creates anxiety. And the other part is also workplace. I don't want to take the extreme example, but toxicity, interactions, relationships, stress is a real thing.
Yeah.
How do you take the control? How do you vest the control from the external surroundings and take it on yourself? Because that's what also well-being is about. How do you make your own choices? And sometimes choices are not with you. So what do you do?
Yeah. So, Raj, you're asking me, several questions in one. And we have to go back a little. That in a way, the external environment puts so much pressure on us. And I was, making this little circle here. I don't know if you can see, it's like boss, your peers, your family, yourself, you're putting pressure points. I was writing this as pressure points. There are so many pressure points, we have as human beings. And these are all internal and external. So what you can't control is external, but you can control yourself. So we have to build tools for resilience. We have to, before we get on to finding our purpose, I would say the foundation stone. So imagine this like a house we are building. So the foundation stone you have to lay is building resilience. And it starts by working on your own attitude, your own mindset. And it's awareness that life will throw lemons at you. And how you deal with those lemons. And it's so highs and lows of life. I mean, it's easier said than done, I know. But how do we go through the ups and downs of life? How do we build resilience? And one thing which we, at our startup OmniLife, which I'll, just type in, into the chat box. I'd love to, all our participants to go and see our website. This is a startup which my younger son Shivam is building. It's a health and wellness startup, theomnilife.com. There we talk about 10 pillars of, of life. And we start by attitude. And at OmniLife, we also talk about your self-care protocols. So each one of us, we need certain self-care protocols, and following these protocols on a daily basis allows us to be resilient. So, where the school of thought I come from, Raj, that we read a lot of good books on spirituality, on mental well-being, on dealing with anxiety, but they are only words. So I am not, a sucker for, these things, because, I need a tool to practice. It's like mathematics, unless you practice, you can't master it. So you cannot just read theory of mathematics. So similarly, the practice of life on a day-to-day basis, you need some tools. So, for example, I gave you one tool for Ikigai, and we'll come to that later, which was writing down on a daily basis as you remember what you love.
Yeah.
Okay, and doing it. So that's also a self-care protocol. But I can give you my own example, Raj, that and I would ask you yours. That when I wake up, for me, first couple of hours are mine.
Yeah.
I own them, so I own my life period, but those hours I own totally. So what I do in them is very important. So I've been to 4 years ago, I went to Shaolin Temple in China. I learned moving meditation, Qigong breathing, which you see Tai Chi or Qigong. And I go out in my balcony. I know these one set or 8-cut brocade is called. It takes 4 minutes. It's 8 exercises, takes 4 minutes. Looking at the sun, I look to do it. Even the days I'm traveling in my hotel room, I can do it. So by doing that, somewhere my mind gets centered. Then last 2 years in lockdown, pranayam and some form of yoga, online yoga, has been a great, friend for me. Then, some basic things like I love buying these, forest essentials, Kama Ayurveda, these essential oils, they help. So I have one night self-care protocol. I have this lavender oil. I have, essential oil I bought from at source in Provence. So I still have it 3 years later. And I put, tap it behind my ears and few drops on my pillow. So whether it works or not, I don't know, but it smells good. Similarly, in the morning, I would, just put some essential oils, some oil, self-application of oil. Then, if possible, take steam, steam and shower. Then your, I follow these chants. So one of my colleagues is a wealth manager come part-time astrologer. So he's given me chantings for my astral chart. Now, again, it's a 15-minute ritual and 108 times into 5 chants. I just close my eyes, meditate, and do those chants. It centers me. I would say it is, I'm dropping pennies every day into building some resilience. So now, the days I do it and don't do it, there's a hell of a difference. So when I have done all these things, versus, I spent total of 1.5 hours on my own self-care protocols, versus I haven't done it for 1 week. I'm in, and all of us, go on off the track. And, there you go to office, situation 1, when I'm doing it, somebody says, boss, this bomb blew on us. This, stinker has come from this client. And I'm saying, okay, we'll handle it. It's fine. If the whole world, sun is still shining outside, versus, oh God, what do we do? And my heart starts pounding and I start getting palpitations. So all these things still happen to me, but at least I'm aware of the difference of what I need to do. So these tools for resilience, I would say, Raj, are the foundation stone. First, we have to lay the foundation stone, and then we go on to, unless we are in, at some base level of equilibrium. I mean, if you want to sail a paper boat, in a pond, if the pond is choppy, it will drown in, 2 minutes. So we need that base level resilience to even get started on Ikigai journey, I'd say. And the points you made, that the pressure, what are the pressure points? Pressure point is our own family. Our bosses are putting pressure on us, whether and even the nicest bosses. Even I put pressure. I'm not a bad boss, but I still put pressure on my team, and pressure from ourselves, and then our peers. In a digitech startup world, it would be very likely for somebody who's a 32-year executive that one of his IIT IIM peers has got ESOPs of 5-10 crores and is now earning 75 lakh rupees salary, and so that guy, his 40 lakhs, he's happy in his 40 lakhs, but he's not happy anymore because wo kama raha hai. So it's like, neighbor's partner is more beautiful, and that sort of a syndrome.
Yeah, but I think the digital medium also done that. I mean, I can tell you like that. We shouldn't be sharing. It's like, drawing room conversation. It's happening. I signed out of Facebook because I realized I was spending time, because one of my batchmates was saying, and he made a show of a big car he's bought. And I said, I don't want to spend my time looking at someone's car. What is it adding to my life?
Yeah.
But it is doing that, whether Instagram, Facebook, there is a thing about,
yes,
right? And maybe we'll talking about technology, and I'll come back to these habits a little bit. Technology is aiding. You talked about a digitech platform. Technology is aiding in many ways, right? Making it simpler, creating companies, consumer behavior is changing. All of that is very good. There is also the impact of technology, at least with increasing social isolation, and the whether Facebook changes its name to Meta, but it has had having troubles, right? There is research and whether they are furthering the toxic behaviors. The point is the social connection and lack of isolation furthering social connection is also a deep, that can also be a tool for creating that buoyancy in mental health. But you mentioned the point that, and I can talk about when you were talking about your lavender oil and all of that I do, but the days I don't do it, I feel less as a person. I don't, and I have that anxiety. And there are many things. I hate exercise, I hate all of that, but it's like I have to do it as a habit. You talked about habits as pennies for building the resilience wall.
Yeah.
One is self-care, which is very critical, but also have your group of family, friends, reach out, share, especially, and I'm looking at in the bed, one is what you do on your own, but in the context of technology and people not being able to share, maybe your own practical tools, especially when you're looking at Ikigai and purpose, you can keep on reflecting yourself, what's your life purpose? It's also sometimes, feedback or conversations help. Any practical tools there?
Yes, definitely. And I need to know your self-care protocols as well. That was a part of my question. So tell me a couple, then we'll move on.
So so morning is my time. I get up at 4:35 is when I get up. So once I get up, I have my exercise routine. I have a trainer exercising on myself. I don't like slow exercises. I have to have someone like.
So it's a medicine. It's a medicine. It's not a.
It is a medicine. It is a medicine. It is something just to get me going. After that, I do my meditation. I have trained in Transcendental Meditation. I do that. The days I don't exercise, also I meditate, but it's not half as effective. Feeling a little less. Then I read. Mornings I go and get to work. I actually do a couple of hours of work early morning. And evening, I have a nighttime routine. I have my self-care routine in terms of your lavender oil. I have a pillow. The house needs to smell nice. They have to be flowers around. All of that. That's in the night.
Nice.
Evening time is also my time. Half an hour. I don't watch TV. I don't do anything. It's just reading in the night or listening to music, very couple of Andrea Bocelli or some classical music.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
That's how I see.
Nice. I'll share with you a nice opera playlist. I have a 500 song opera playlist. I'll share that with you.
Wonderful.
Yes. So Raj, how important these are, and just reflections on everything else we've been talking about. Yes, it's possible to have tools and on finding your purpose. I would want to share example of my work with my own colleagues. So Bajaj Capital is 4,000 strong, and I've had the privilege of working with about 150 of my own colleagues. So I ran these Saturday morning sessions where I would get a group of 12 in and just speak to them on their ikigai. Now what how that helps me? It's a 2-in-1 exercise for me, because remember, business is being run by the top professionals of the company. So obviously, what is my job? My job is to set the culture and to keep doing dipsticks on the culture. Now, if I'm walking around the corridor in office, and if I just smile at somebody, versus I go and sit at somebody's desk, and I say, your ikigai is cooking, Gautam. So kya chal raha hai, bol? So then he would his eyes would sparkle up, and he would start talking about it. So I'll give you a live example. A very senior person in our HR, his true passion was cooking, street food, Mumbai street food, very particular, very specific ikigai. And that came out, in our sessions, and we'll just come to tools for discovery. And guess what? He recently, a year down, he recently wrote a blog, and I'm happy to make that even available to you, if it's of any worth on your platform. He said it has added to so much to my mental well-being, being able to do this on a weekend. So what he did, he continues to do his Monday to Friday job as HR, senior executive in Bajaj Capital. But on Saturdays and Sundays, he's hooked up with some organizations, and he does street food there. He sets up stalls, and that weekend, gives him so much, good vibes, that he is, I see Darpan, clapping. So it's brought a smile on his face. He's one of the faces I'm able to see besides Devika. And Devika has a big smile. So, being able to do something on weekend. And in fact, that's also me. My weekend, my Monday to Friday job is running Bajaj Capital, or allowing it to run, staying out of its way. And Saturday and Sunday is Ikigai time. So my Ikigai is to help people find their Ikigai. Any work I can do, and possibly come and speak on a platform like yours, and add any limited value, that gives me soul satisfaction. So that's why I do it. And this is kind of my fuel. You are adding fuel to my tank by allowing me to, come and speak here and share my thoughts with you.
But the question is, and I'm going back to certain questions that have also come.
Yes.
Amazing stuff that's happening. And you said you're not a professional coach. Some questions are also about relationship counselor. So I'll be asking a couple of them. But the one question is leaders walking the talk when it comes to health. And you talked about the power of being open, right? And many of us, most leaders actually wear a mask. Even if things are happening, they're possibly not, they don't share. And even like when you talked about the conversations on Ikigai, getting them to surface it is the discovery phase that they have to go through. Some of them still are not able to do it as freely. So why, I'm not asking a closed-ended question, why do people wear masks? But how do you kind of peel the mask out and help people surface it, discover it? And what are your tips to get leaders to walk the talk?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a tough, that's a tough one. I'd say, you know, I can speak about, environment in my own company 6 months ago and today. Today, I am just coming from office and we were 40, 50 people and we were doing satsang together. And, we've come to this situation. Someone proposed that we need to have, our Guruji's satsang, and that he's not a Guruji of everyone, but it was a devotional moment. So, and families were invited, kids were invited, and not many people came in, but say 50, 60 people came in and we did satsang together. But everybody was so charged. They were so out of themselves. You could see their spirits were soaring. They were, opposite of being inside themselves. So that was one way. Or yesterday we had a great strategy session where we did a Shark Tank kind of a thing. And we gave a prize. We say, okay, there's a prize and everyone competes with everybody. So there's a head of, chief of strategy competing with a management trainee. So whoever made a good entry, they are competing with each other, presenting the future strategy for certain business of the company. That brought so much excitement. And, the guy who got the IPL kind of a check, that check in the end, it's a big deal. So that's where you leverage, these gimmicky tools, which we are used to in our life. And so there's been so much buzz, positivity in the company versus, 6 months ago, one or two key people resign. And then everybody starts asking the question, where is the company going? What is our direction? Everybody anyways is at loss coming out of the shell of COVID. So they are lost in themselves and then they begin to doubt everything, including the direction of the company, while company is not doing badly. So I would say, and this is my connection is with primarily the top leadership. So, the strengths of your leader become your strengths. The blind spot of your leader become your blind spots. Particularly if the leader's been around 10 years. You know this better than me, Raj. And I'm sure there are researches. So therefore, we need to, how do you keep the top 10, 20, 30 people in the company charged up? And how do they kind of, cascade it down and that positivity and that energy? So, I'd say, my friend, my best friend in life, Sumit Arora, he was director training for Pizza Hut in India, Yum Brands.
Yum Brands.
Yeah, and I forget the name of his boss. A very iconic guy on whose life this movie, his daughter's life, this movie was made. The Priyanka Chopra.
Pink. What's the
The Sky is Pink.
The Sky is
So, that real family.
Niren.
Yeah. So Niren, he would always talk about Niren as God. And I would say, shut up. I'm fed up of Niren. I don't even know Niren. But, he would, my friend would keep talking about him. What an iconic guy. And Niren would go on Saturdays to clubs and play guitar and live his passion. And he was that, he had that, school band rock star in him, and he wouldn't hide it. And he would start, doing that in his, he's led an expressive life. And he's been through, his share of ups and downs, and God bless him. And they made as a dedication. Somebody approached them. Their daughter wrote a book, and it became a Bollywood commercial movie. So that's a leader. That's a leader who expresses. And guess what? The influence it was having on my best friend, and who's the So that's one example in the corporate world I can think of leader setting the tone. If leader is vulnerable, so I mean, if I'm down on a particular day, I have no qualms admitting to, if I'm sitting for a coffee with two of my top leaders, I'll tell them, boss, I'm down. And then we'll start talking and let them counsel me. Obviously, they are older than me in life and they have more experience in life, and they'll tell me. And I've been, my life, a better part of it has been silver spoon shielded. So, they have been through more struggles. They'll have more experiences to share and tell. So that's the kind of bond I want to open and relationship I want to have with my team. And this is how we, do run our company. Just talking to each other openly, Raj. So
Powerful
I
nuggets.
guess,
You can see the comments also. Nathan's also written, wish we had more of you in this world, because not many people are really open. And one of the things I kind of talk about is, most of us, we say, we'll retire from a corporate life and get into some. But little do we realize that it's in the present we are doing great.
Absolutely.
The impact that you have for the families of people who work under you, we sometimes kind of just underestimate the impact that we have.
Yeah, Raj, I want to share, about you're an outstanding lady, I know. But I met another outstanding lady, Kiran Shaw, in conversation with Indra Nui. This was again 72 hours ago on one of our entrepreneur platforms. And Indra Nui, how earthy she is. I was hearing her for the first time, how earthy she is as a human being and so connected to the ground. And her whole, that I researched her. I mean, I've always known Indra Nui as Indian icon, like Sunita Williams, from a long distance.
Yeah.
The poster girl of the corporate world globally.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I haven't really studied her as a human being. But Indra, I respected her because she was so open, vulnerable, and grounded. So therefore, I researched her, and I picked up a copy of her book, which is lying behind me, and she talks about this concept of PWP. I think it's profit with purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah. So profit with purpose. So it's the same thing. It's about how did she, and she spoke at length about how did she help PepsiCo board and offer soft drinks company, fizzy drinks company to get into healthy foods, and it was a journey for her. But her own sort of belief system, she was able to transfer onto other people. So there are, and so why I took her name, why I'm thinking of her now is that she is an iconic, successful leader. So for top corporate leaders, CEOs of companies, to take company down the right path of purpose, profit with purpose, how much value it would add to the society, to the people in the company, how good they would feel about themselves, and how much that good vibes would flow around the organization.
Absolutely.
And it's somewhere we started with the microcosm at an individual level of mental health. Somewhere it may help positively in this whole endeavor.
Fantastically said. And in that context, I think one of the things that people are struggling with, and there is enough talk, the post-pandemic, maybe whether people will work remote or hybrid, there are challenges that are going to be there. Kids who've been fed on the entire social media, or they've lived their lives on the digital platform. So one of the questions really is, and maybe I will add another rejoinder from my end, can you talk about the effects of social media and external expectations, the part that you talked about, comparisons driving anxiety on the younger generation? One.
Yeah.
And part B to the question is, how do we rewire and reteach people to be human? One aspect is be open, share, be vulnerable. But as we move towards increasing automation, and where maybe we will not also see each other, how do you foster that sense of camaraderie that you talk about? You want to do social satsang or something devotional, or you friendships at workplace. How do you do that? How do you nurture it?
Yeah. So starting with youngsters, because well-being of our kids also has reflection strongly on our own well-being. I would say that, and I've seen my boys growing, they're in the early 20s now. Between the difference between them and me is that technology is a tool for me. For them, technology is a friend. They have a relationship with technology. Like they have 10 important relationships they have, including one of them is with their, whatever their PlayStation and their, the mobile phone and all the new apps on it. So it's, how do we, so it's, there are friends who are good influence and bad influence. But you learn even from bad, the friends who influence you badly, they may help you become better humans. So it's all a similar kind of a conversation that, it does make you, when you're too much into it. So I would say balance is very important. Balance of everything, balance of your daily routine, of your day, of your work life, between technology and human connection. So I would say as parents, we need to set the balance. There are some, I remember many years ago on PlayStation, there was this game which was really violent, where, people are killing and this, that. And I kind of, at that point, I got a little irked and I put my foot down. But if my boys are playing FIFA, I have no problem. It's kind of, soccer adds to their, life value. And why not? So that is, part of their extended ikigai. So we need to keep an eye and also draw the line, Raj, as we do in many other aspects of life. I think that's as far as the kids are concerned. What was the second part of your question, Raj?
Second question is fostering human connections, right? Balance between tech and digital in the workplaces, because people will be going hybrid or remote. Some companies, there will be many choices that will be made this decade. What is the concept of office? That will also change.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I did, during lockdown. I kept connected with my, I would generally, like to once in a while go out for a beer with my team, so just, with the digital team sometimes, marketing team sometimes, just have to go out for a beer, particularly, so that, I have a sense into their mind, their aspirations, etc. That couldn't happen over the last 2 years. So I had, online drink sessions. I say, okay, guys, just pick out a beer from the fridge. Let's have a beer together. And then, people would share their vulnerabilities and discuss. And it was a poor second choice. Now that particularly now we are beginning to get back into real world. So now, when in hindsight, it was a poor second choice, but that was the only choice we had. So we need to encourage. I'm just trying to, you said that how do leaders set the example? Your last question and leading to this one. How do leaders set the example? Because we, when we wear suit and tie or our sari or whatever our professional attire is, we sometimes we start taking ourselves too seriously. We just kind of need to ease up. It's about being real, and it's not think of Indra Nui. That's why I said Indra Nui. Think of Indra Nui. She's a real person, and she had many more challenges of color, race, gender, and she still went to top in a much more challenging environment, in top 50 Fortune 50 environment. So I mean, you don't give me excuses, anyone, like I have a tough job, and she had a tough environment, but she managed all of it through her own self-development. So I would say now we can't change our, I mean, if somebody is HR head of a company, how can you help your CEO ease up? Honestly, I think that's the conversation we are having. And I'm sure, as HR head and of a good company, chief people officers do have some platform with the board, with the REMCO, and in an informal environment or anywhere else. Like if I am going through and I'm trying to think of a period where I've gone through an uptight mode and I needed to be given feedback, I have been given feedback. So, it would be, HR head would say something to a board member and board member would come and talk to me. So I need to be spoken to. If the HR head is not able to do it directly, then I need to be spoken to, because it all starts from the top. And in a worst case scenario, we'll have to escape that company, if things are not working. But it starts from the top, Raj.
So switching gears, because you're talking about, and let's circle back. I'm also mindful of the time. I can go on and you continue to amaze me and inspire me.
And yes,
about that later. One question is also there. You talked about tone from the top. We talked about how people can be vulnerable and also linked it up with self-care and finding your purpose. Question really is, how do regular Joes, regular middle-level managers find their purpose? And remember the conversation that you had, which is, if you don't like the job, find purpose in your job. If you don't get purpose as well. And so the question really is, how do they find this sense of purpose and send it to teams too? This entire concept of igniting purpose. It's like, you have to be on the treadmill, doing a job. Short-term targets that you are meeting. But in that space, especially if the top is not supposed as vulnerable, how do you you're sandwiched between these two layers, right? So how do you find
it? So let's say let's now talk about, let's work in an environment of constraints. Okay, so let's assume we don't have access to the board, we can't influence the CEO, and you're but you have 20 people who are your influence group. So what environment can you create with your influence group? Can you, get them tools? Can you get them to read the Ikigai book? Can you get them to watch Rajiv's TEDx talk, or and give them tools for finding your Ikigai? And you start having those conversations. You start having your own version of fireside chats with your own gang, and essentially giving them personal time beyond asking them about target achievements and their KPIs. So if we start with our own group of 15 or 20, and somewhere somebody will notice in the company, this is a happy bunch. They are so well bonded and they deliver their KPIs. So there's something good going on here. And if you're not the HR head of that company, I hope the HR head is intuitive enough, empathetic enough to take notice of that you're a good sales manager and you're driving your bunch and your team is super happy.
That's right.
And there's a good sense of well-being there. And you helped, got somebody a counselor, you helped for somebody come out of a mental health issue, and all these are extra. So I would say that in the kind of organizations we are talking about, top 5% organizations in the country, in this chat room. So in these companies, I'm sure there's recognition. Not that we should do it for recognition, we should do it for self-fulfillment, but I'm sure recognition is waiting down the road, even if we work in an environment of constraints. So I would say this is a very small sort of a starting point. So Raj, I don't want to close before we discuss the tools, because I've been saying all along.
Yes.
I've been saying all along that for me, what matters is not Gyan, but the tools. Tools for everything. So tools for resilience we discussed, tools for self-care, and adding and which would help build resilience, but tools for finding purpose. So we started by discussing one of them. So if you read the Ikigai book, it says 4 things. Do I have it on my table? No, I don't see it. It says 4 things: what you love, what you're good at,
Good. Yeah.
what the world needs in your eyes, what you feel passionate about, and what you can be paid for. So obviously beyond what you're doing right now. So this is part 1 of my session. So my TEDx talk 1 is about this, and TEDx talk 2 is connecting the dots. So if I were to, you told me about yourself. Can I ask you a couple of questions now?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I asked you, what do you love? And my second question would be, what are you good at, Raj?
I'm good at.
What do you get complimented for all the time from others?
What do I get complimented for? I think just bringing warmth and listening.
Good listener.
I listen.
Yeah. So, there are, each one of us, we get repeatedly complimented from genuine relationships in our life. And we know who's, applying butter and who's, genuinely complimenting. So, right from our childhood to now, because we must keep doing our own lifeline time and again, forward and back. And that's what kind of helps us not living in the past, but sometimes dipping into the past to understand ourselves better. So Raj, one thing like listening is one of your skills. If you, again, on your notepad, if you were to just divide it into 4 parts, so let's say your diary is what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, other than your current job. So, if something like this, so if you were to do it on a piece of paper, all of you, or you were to do it on your notepad, if you just kept writing down. So you've told me you're good at listening. So you'll come up with 20 things, Raj, when you do it in your own time on Sunday tomorrow. What is the cause which is really personal to you, which gets you fired up? Malab, you feel like slapping somebody when you see that not happening.
Slapping someone. I think iniquity and unfairness.
Yeah. You see that happening and your blood starts boiling.
Yeah. किसी ने कुछ कह दिया किसी को, and maybe just iniquity, I think, in a sense.
Inequity. Yeah. So let's say
somebody iniquity.
Yeah, somebody in the building has been rude to the guy who can't answer back.
Yeah.
That kind of gets you going, riles you up. So this is a pointer of a direction of what you're really passionate about, of what worldly cause, not save the world, climate change and all of that. Those are beyond our control, most of us. So we can't do. Delhi, like I was coughing a bit in the middle. All of us in the family are coughing because of Punjab stubs burning. Suddenly a very good 2 years we've been used to 25 to 50 PMI, but it's suddenly become 250 again. So we are all not, our lungs are not used to this poor quality. So that's beyond our control. I can be riled up about it. Yes, I'm riled up, but I can't control it. And lastly, Raj, what else could you be paid for besides your current job?
What else could I be paid for? I don't know. Maybe my plants, my plant collection, which is something.
Plants.
Yeah. If I set up a nursery.
Yeah. So you did also earlier answer. You did earlier answers, saying that you love in the evening. Your self-care happens in the evening. You take care of you, and you did allude to this, upkeep of your house and something to this. So there is some connection there. So if our ex-CFO, his Ikigai was his relationship with his plants, and how he would nurture the plants in his apartment.
Yeah.
And that was his ikigai. And that would, of a dry finance number crunching job, that is what would, fill his, the bowl of his heart in the evening. So this was just a little sample, Raj, of what is possible. My quest is, what I'm trying to do, I'm in touch with a bunch of 4-5 guys who are the best ikigai, brains, including somebody in Japan who's PhD in ikigai. So we are trying to, work out something for corporates. And I'll come back to you and reach out to you.
Happy to partner.
For advice, that is there scope for if we create a team of people who are trained to be ikigai coaches, and can we, as HR head, come and appeal to you that that if you, on a Friday evening or a Saturday, if you allowed us to run these programs with your team, if your team members are more fulfilled and happier, they might give better to the job and improve productivity. So in fact, so performance with purpose is the term Indra Nuri uses. Performance with PWP is performance with purpose. So people can Google it actually.
Remember last time we bonded on Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and I think the entire bit is people's search for deep meaning in their relationships, at their work, at the workplace. And Ikigai is really that. So last question for me, and as I sign off, Rajiv, and I can tell you on behalf of the bright faces, the sparkle in people's eyes, the penny that, many pennies that dropped, not only now they will go back and fill their currency of resilience, but really, I think it's been a fantastic session, and we would love to share together and collaborate. And I'm signing you up, Bajaj Capital, as a key ally in the entire journey towards mental well-being.
Thank you. So that would be, a part of OmniLife. I train as a part of OmniLife, my son's venture. Wonderful. And I charge a very token fee, and I'm using it towards building curriculum. And I already have curriculum ready for underprivileged children. And I want to run it in government schools. And I've already done pilot in Delhi government schools.
Fantastic.
So this is where I would redeploy whatever little bit I earn. I will redeploy it there. So that's my, sort of little purpose happening on the side.
So last question as we sign up. Because our session theme was acceptance. And you said, there were warts, moles, etc. that you saw when you were looking at who am I, without the Bajaj, what does Rajiv stand for? To figure out your ikigai. There's a path to being self-aware and acceptance. Affections, acceptance of your anxieties, acceptance of also certain things that you think, your weight of others' expectations. What was the hardest for you? And what is one message that you will give to all of us?
So I want to close by this quote, which I heard in the film Great Gatsby. Many of us have seen it. So where Tobey Maguire and Leo DiCaprio, they are having a conversation. He said that there are only a handful of people you meet in life who understand you and believe in you the way you wish to be believed and understood. So I would say that my pain point was that I felt that even people closest to me, who needed to understand me the way I wanted to be understood. And that within my family. So that was the pain point. And how I transcended that was by getting a better understanding of myself, who I truly am, and slowly starting to be true to myself. I'm telling you, it was a 10-year journey and still ongoing. starting being true to myself, expressing myself. And then, that Japanese author book, The Courage to be Disliked. So, you still won't get accepted, but still then, somewhere you find a midway. You find a midway. And then there are people in your life, other people, so possibly your spouse and others, your best friend or somebody else, your closest colleague. And maybe you can be that boss who understands you and believes in you the way you wish to be understood and believed. So I think, these are your resilience builders, people with whom, so what does a counselor do? Shrink you go to would simply hear you out. So guess what? We are not trained at, being coaches in that sense. But we can be good listeners. And if we are good listeners, if we have that skill, why not leverage that skill at home and with our closest colleagues who are the reason for what we are today.
Wonderful. So many nuggets of wisdom, practical tips, but more importantly, you shared yourself, a part of yourself in the conversation. I am truly grateful, honored. And I think on behalf of NHRDN Mind Matters, we couldn't have asked for a better session to kind of close this part of the campaign. Thank you, Rajiv. Thanks everyone who participated. And you see the kind of comments that are coming. So obviously people are enriched, and they will have the recording also go out, and many, many viewers will see it. Thank you. Thanks,
Raj. Thank you for believing in me and calling me here. And I truly enjoyed this. And it's been a very rewarding Saturday evening for me. Thank you so much.
Likewise, it's been the best conversation I've had. On the listening part, I was just thinking my husband won't agree, but I hope I was a good listener to you.
Yes, you are. I was thinking that you were a great listener, and I'm sure when you so one takeaway for you, Raj, particularly, and then everyone else can think about theirs. If can I give you another tool, all of you, as a gift, parting gift? If tomorrow, as a favor to me, you can have a coffee with yourself. Make yourself that nice filter coffee. Go and sit on the balcony, go to Starbucks nearby or your favorite cafe, and have a half an hour, 45 minutes coffee with yourself. And answer these 4 questions. What you love, what you're good at, compliments you get, what the world needs, and what you could be paid for besides your current job. So maybe that's the beginning of your Ikigai journey. And I hope I can add value to you. All of you can reach out to me, email me, WhatsApp me. Raj can give you my number. I'm happy to answer any questions. Glad to be here. Thank you, Raj. And thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Rajiv sir, for a wonderful session.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.